For decades, the United States has offered foreign investors a massive, high-stakes exchange. You inject significant wealth into American development projects to create jobs, and in return, you get a green card. That is the core of the EB-5 visa program. In 2022, Congress passed the Reform and Integrity Act, or RIA, to clean up and modernize this system. But passing a law and actually enforcing it are two different things. For years, the program has been operating in a legal vacuum. Without concrete regulatory guidelines, foreign capital has been navigating a maze of ambiguous boundaries. Investors and developers alike have been forced to guess exactly how long money needs to be tied up and where exactly it is allowed to go. That ambiguity is about to end. The long-awaited 2026 Notice of Proposed Rulemaking has finally arrived, laying out the exact, uncompromising terms that dictate how the RIA will actually operate on the ground. These new regulations turn what was once a loosely defined transaction into a strictly policed chronological gauntlet. The first phase of this gauntlet requires an immigrant investor to choose an eligible project, but the map of where you can put your money has been completely redrawn, and several old pathways are now closed forever. For example, if you were looking to invest in a troubled business to save it from going under, that option has been entirely removed from the program. Look at this chart comparing local job data against the national baseline. The Department of Homeland Security has finally defined the exact metrics for a high employment area. If a region has an employment rate 150% above the national average, the investment threshold is now locked in at $1.4 million. If you choose to fund an infrastructure project instead, the rules are even more rigid. The target must be a physical asset, and the entity actually managing the project, the job-creating enterprise, must be administered exclusively by a federal, state, or local government entity. And the government is drawing a hard line on national security. There are 16 critical infrastructure sectors, spanning national economic security and public health, that are strictly banned from receiving this foreign funding. By explicitly walling off its most sensitive assets, the U.S. is forcing foreign capital exclusively into highly specific, economically safe zones. Once a project is selected and funded, the investor enters Phase 2, a post-investment waiting game known as the sustainment period. This flow diagram illustrates where the money actually lands. First, it drops into a holding fund called a New Commercial Enterprise, or NCE. From there, it has to move to the Job Creating Enterprise, or JCE. This is the active project company, the entity that actually hires workers, buys materials, and builds the infrastructure. Under the new rules, the mandatory 2-year investment clock does not start while the money is parked in that initial NCE account. The 2-year countdown only activates the moment that capital physically transfers to the JCE, is placed entirely at risk, and is actively deployed for construction or operations. This effectively kills the historical parked capital loophole. Your money cannot sit safely in a holding account gathering interest while you wait for a visa. It has to go to work in the U.S. economy immediately. The third and final phase is the audit. To secure a permanent green card, the investor must file an I-829 application to prove their money actually created the required jobs. Now, regional centers are required to file a master template called an exemplar to prove job creation exactly 90 days before the very first investor is allowed to apply. And the enforcement mechanisms are severe. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services will no longer rely solely on submitted paperwork. They will actively conduct physical site visits to the project and run their own public data audits to verify compliance. Paper promises are dead. The government now demands undeniable physical proof of economic impact before a permanent residency is granted. Zooming out, the life cycle of an EB-5 visa looks entirely different today. An investor goes from navigating a loosely regulated landscape to running a rigid, heavily monitored obstacle course. We are watching a deliberate policy shift. The United States is no longer chasing sheer investment volume, it is demanding investment validity. For the foreign investor, the barrier to entry is higher, the timeline is strictly enforced, and the scrutiny is intense. But the legal pathway to residency is finally clear and predictable. By redrawing the map and resetting the clock, the U.S. has engineered the EB-5 program to ensure that foreign wealth safely and undeniably serves American economic interests.